slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't.
Hey team, hope you're all doing well. I wanted to go over this one change that transformed my 5K time. When I was in college, when I was in high school, I ran 16:16 for 5K in cross country. I was the first time I ran cross country was my junior year, and I ran so 2 years of high school. I also ran 15:48 for 5K on the roads as a senior in high school. When I got to college, my coach was constantly on my case. Jack Hazen, he's one of the best distance running coaches in the world. He was on my case all the time. And looking back, I totally agree with him. He was always saying, Nate, why aren't you breaking the 15-minute barrier? What you're doing in training it shows that you should be running well in the 14s for 5 kilometers. And the best I ran for a 5K on the track at Malone University was 15:19. Okay, I didn't break the 15-minute barrier for the 5K until I was 32 years old. I ran 14:18 on the roads. I think the biggest change that transformed my 5K time was just being patient and really working on my overall leg speed. I think that a lot of times the 5K, because it's it's still an aerobic event, but it's more on the anaerobic spectrum versus like a half marathon, which is definitely more aerobic than anaerobic. It's 3 miles. It's over so quick, 12 and a half laps of the track. My biggest problem when I was in college was, one, I was way too stressed out prior to the start of my races. I was far too serious at the start of my races. I was trying to break 14 minutes for 5,000 meters because I knew that the Malone University school record was 13:53. And when I got to Malone, Ira Wentworth was the school record holder, and he still holds the record. And so I was always pushing to run under 14 minutes. So I would be going out the first 1,600 meters, the first 4 laps of the track in like 4:27 to 4:28. And then I'd run like 4:50 for the second mile and just crash and burn the last mile. So I think the biggest thing that helped me, the one change that helped me get from running 15:19 on the track as a college athlete to running 14:18 on the roads, more than anything, it was being patient, growing in the sport, continuing to implement my leg speed and working on those really fast, hard workouts, those track sessions. I know a lot of you are having issues maybe with pace sustainment in the 5,000 meters. Maybe you're right on pace for 4 laps, then you have a problem, sustaining the goal pace for the last 2 miles. At the end of it, it's a tough event. You have to be really highly focused and highly driven to succeed in this event. But I think some of the biggest problems I had as a collegiate athlete, and why Coach Hazen was always on my case, he's like, you're doing 6 1-mile repetitions in training in the 4:30s with a 3-minute recovery, and you're running 15:19 for 5K. I think that's 15:19. I think is like 4:53 pace, 4:52 pace for 3 miles, somewhere around there. But he was always saying, you're on the pace for 6 laps. What's going on the last 6 laps? The last 6+ laps. And at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest problems I had was I was just way too serious, way too stressed out prior to the start of my races. And looking back, I still remember the times where, I was, even in training, I got so involved and so immersed in what I was doing that sometimes I just didn't put it together in the race. And even my brother was a national class shot put and discus thrower. He always performed much better in training than he did even in the competitions. And he was always a very high level field athlete. I mean, he threw 173 feet for the discus. And I'm not sure what his shot put was, but I do remember his PR for the discus was 173 feet. So he was extremely competitive, and he always did better, even better in training than he did in the competitions. And I know a lot of you may have had experienced this as well, where your workouts really are showing some extreme fitness, but you have some times where you struggle in the races. Sometimes you really succeed, and sometimes you really nail it in the work in the competitions. But then there's other times where you really have a hard time, and I would do in college. I was always trying to go at least under 15 minutes. I was always trying to get in the 14s, but I always had my mind on sub 14 minutes. And I think that extra stress was always, I put that extra stress and unnecessary tension on myself, and stress to also perform at a high level. And I always felt like if I don't break 14 minutes, if I don't break at least go under in the 14s, then I'm not living up to my expectations. Okay, we place so much, and looking back, that's what I was doing. Don't do that to yourself. Okay, your best running more than likely is, depending on your age too. I mean, even if you're older, if you're in your 40s like I am, and you still want to do this, stay consistent, be willing to train for several more years, and you're going to get to where you want to go. Okay, but the one change that transformed my 5K time from going from a 15:19 in college to running 14:18 was maturity and not being so stressed out and concerned about living up to the pressures that I was placing on myself at that time. So I mentioned Ira Wentworth. He's our school record holder. He still holds it, 13:53. I'm not Ira Wentworth, and you're not whoever you're trying to compare yourself to. Just be the best that you possibly can be. My brother said it best when he was talking to my nephew at Brock's last year, my nephew Brock's last track and field outdoor meet last year. He ran 14:51, a PR for him at that time. And my brother said, just your competition is the clock. And I really like what he said there. I mean, really, at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's not other athletes. Of course, you're going to be competing against other people, but your focus should be preparing the best you can yourself and focusing on that clock and doing the very best you can to run as quickly as you possibly can. But don't worry so much about, well, so-and-so ran this time and I want to at least run as fast as this guy or this gal. Again, that places a lot of stress on athletes, and a lot of times we don't compete or we don't perform at the level that we were expecting, okay? And this happens for athletes that are very consistent. They continue to train and race for several years, and it's the same for athletes that take long breaks from the sport and they come back and they try to train. And it's really any type of additional stress that you're placing on yourself really can do a number on your performance. But I think that that's the one major change I made, was just in learning to enjoy what I was doing and being patient, and knowing that if you're running 25 minutes for a 5K right now and you're trying to break 20 minutes and you want to be in the 19s, you have to expect that it may take you several years to do that, okay? I was trying to run the 14s as a collegiate. And I was doing the types of workouts that was clearly showing that I was capable of it. And even for a coach as great as Jack Hazen, for him to be constantly telling me, you should be in the 14s. I ran 24:32 for 8K as well in college, which definitely corresponds to a 14 something for 5K. Some days you're right on. Like when I ran 24:32, if I would have ran a 5K maybe the week after that, I think I would have ran 14:30s, 14:40s, 14:50s range. So I definitely had the fitness to do it. But for some reason, when I was in college, the quickest I could go was 15:19, and it's still not a slow time. There are a lot of athletes out there would love to have that time. But, if you're, say, a 22-minute 5K runner and you're doing workouts that maybe 18 to 19-minute 5K athletes are doing, and you go out and you're running 22s, then try to find out what that problem is. Is it a pacing problem? It could be. Is it a stress and tension problem? Is it a psychological problem? I think that this is something we as athletes don't always fully understand. You know, you're doing very well in training, but is there something going on subconsciously or, you know, in the subconscious mind that is stopping you from running as strong as you have been in training as and doing it in the race? Is it something else? Is it a longer buildup? Were you training for like a year straight with no break? That's in most cases too long. You need, you know, most cases 3 months to 6 months. More so like 3 to 4 months if you're training for a 5K. I don't think you really need to train 5 to 6 months straight to run a great 5K. But 3 to 4 months is great. But going out for, were you training for like a year straight, you keep pushing yourself over and over again? Look at these things, you know, and reevaluate how you set up your training. But that's how I did it. Now, you know, and I ran that 14:18 on the roads in Denver, Colorado at a mile high as well. And the guy that beat me was Kenny Foster. He ran 14:16. He beat me in the last 100 meters of the race. Kenny went on to run 2:19:49 for the marathon, 29:23 for 10K on the track, 105 for the half, 49:11 for 10 miles. You know, Kenny was very, very strong. And that day, we both PR'd that particular day. In terms of the one change I made, the major change that helped me transform my 5K time from a 15:19 to later in life running a 14:18 was not stressing so much and being willing to understand that it's going to take, in some cases, for some athletes, they're going to be running 14s, 13s in college. Other athletes, it may take them several years to get to that point. But at the end of the day, you want to get to that point. And if you finally get there, then let that, you know, be excited about that and not so much about like, I have to run this fast in this time frame or else. What about if you just stay consistent and you keep enjoying what you're doing and keep putting in the heavy work, and then getting to that point, whether it takes you 2 years, 2 months, or 15 years to get to that point. If you finally get to that point, then you can say, man, I finally did it. It took me a little bit longer than most athletes, but I finally did it. So I hope this video is helpful for all of you. Just hearing some background information about what I was doing in the 5K distance. I marvel and am fully impressed with all of you that are training for middle distance to long races. My nephew Brock, I'm absolutely just stoked for him as well. I mean, he just recently ran a 14:47 for 5,000 meters indoors, breaking his personal record and setting the school record for Washington and Jefferson College indoor 5,000 meter time. So just impressed with not only him, but every one of you out there that are putting in the work. So thank you so much for watching my videos. Thanks for your support. Check out RunDreamAchieve.com if you're looking to really take your training and racing to the next level. There are a lot of resources there, from training plans. I work one-on-one with athletes as well with coaching. There's running courses that I've created for athletes trying to run faster at the half marathon and marathon distances that might be of interest to you. And thank you so much, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.